Hello, welcome to Recover Me. My name is Anne, and on this channel, I'm going to be sharing my journey about recovering me. And this video is going to be about abortion. I actually had 2 abortions, um, and I had a lot of regret and shame afterwards. And I want to share kind of how uh, the decision came about, the regret part, how I was able to forgive myself and find recovery and forgiveness in that and ditch the shame that I had been carrying for many, many years. So I became a teen mom at 16 years old. I raised that child. I actually ended up having 3 children altogether, and we have wonderful, beautiful relationships. But this abortion happened when I was 17. It was June 6th, 1987 to be exact. And my boyfriend and I at the time both equally made this decision. And he actually did take me, paid for it, stayed with me and took care of me. We actually had a complication about a week later. He took me back for that. And I'll fast forward a little bit, but just recently, about 2 weeks ago, I was able to speak with him for the first time in almost 40 years. And I did not know that he had been carrying, well, I thought he might, and that's why I reached out. I was actually able to find him. And we had actually tried to do this before him at one time, but couldn't find me at another time when I had went through my original healing for this. Sorry about the roosters outside. This is why I have difficulty making videos. Dogs, cats, roosters, donkeys, horses. I do run a horse rescue and have a lot of animals out there, and you can hear them. Sorry about that. But I'm going to keep going here because I'm just a couple minutes in, and it's hard to keep starting over and over and over trying to tell the story. So originally, I had gone to Planned Parenthood looking for alternatives, what my options were. And the only option that Planned Parenthood came up with for me was abortion. And right away, immediately, started showing me that it was basically just a clump of cells. Now, at the time, I was about 6 weeks along, I think. Yes, and the abortion happened when I was about 8 weeks along. So 6 weeks along, they're telling me as long as I do it by this stage, it's really not a baby yet. It's not even formed. Doesn't have a heartbeat. It's, and I fell hook, line, and sinker for it. I was desperate. I was already raising a child. I had no family. I've been emancipated since I was 16 years old. So I was completely on my own. I was not getting help from the state. I think at one point I may have gotten food stamps or something, but I was literally working 2, sometimes even 3 different jobs, making ends meet. And I'll tell you, it was a lot easier then even. It was hard, don't get me wrong, but for people today, I think it's even harder. So many kids can't even get out of the house, before they're 30 at this point. But so I had all that on my plate, and to be honest and truthful, I knew I was a mess. Emotionally, and that's a place, it's a dark, confusing place that we get to, especially after being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And that leads us down a lot of different paths that maybe we wouldn't have chosen otherwise. We're living in a very dysfunctional environment for that to occur. So a lot of times there's so many other things going on, neglect and other abuses and verbal abuse emotionally, not a lot of support. And so, yeah, I was on my own at 16, and, raising a child already. So we decided to do that, and immediately afterwards, I regretted it. Immediately. I actually had some apprehension going in, and when I was able to talk to the baby's father just recently, that's one thing that really, really bothered him, was he in some ways felt like he forced me, which I never felt like he forced me. I really think he was protecting me. There were people outside the clinic just asking questions. I wasn't being yelled at or anything like that, but the shame, just, I'll never forget walking up those steps. And then the entire procedure, all of it was like a mill. There was no personal involvement from anybody. It was just like being run through a mill, which was also horribly shameful. And even though my family wasn't Christian, I grew up and I believed in God. And how I made that okay, I'm not sure. You know, the rationalizations that we are able to tell ourselves when we're afraid, and I'm going to tell you that that really was the biggest reason that, I chose that, was absolute fear. Fear of not being able to see the future, fear of being a failure, fear that it would take away from my other child, fear that I just couldn't do it. And the sad part about that is, too, talking to the baby's father just recently, which, like I said, it's almost been 40 years. So this was June 6th, 1987 when this happened. He came from a very good family, and money wouldn't have been a problem, but somehow I knew we wouldn't stay together. But even still, that baby would have been fine. I probably even would have been better off, looking back. And yes, he was afraid, just like almost every man is, or woman, when you're about to become a parent. But he has major regrets as well. And so I was able to talk to him a little bit about what I did. And the really interesting thing was, we actually connected on Facebook. That's how I found him. So we had been messaging, and we had planned the day and time that we were going to talk. So he was completely ready for that talk and had a pen and a paper and lots of questions. And he wanted to know the date that it happened, how far along I was, if I had named the child. And in 2007, so 20 years after the abortion, I went to an intensive counseling retreat in Colorado. If anybody would like the name of that, I will surely share it with you. Matter of fact, I'll just say it right here. It's called Counseling of the Rockies in Buena Vista, Colorado. And it is Christian based. That was important to me, and not in a Bible thumping sort of a way. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the power of the Spirit. And I had sunk into a very, very deep depression, and I remember crying out and just saying, Jesus, I know I can talk to you like this, whatever, but I was just like, I need you in person. Like, I was demanding it. And it was just really interesting how that all came about. It was just a few weeks later when I found that resource and was fortunate enough to have been able to afford it. And I was only supposed to stay there a week, and I actually ended up staying there 2 weeks. I was suicidal at that point, and a lot of us that have experienced childhood trauma suffer with suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And matter of fact, there's one statistic that says 30% of people that have experienced that have at least one attempt. And I actually did have one when I was 16. Um, it's crazy, you know. We have a hard time just coping with life in general. So while I was there dealing with all of that, the abortion came up, and I had no clue how much shame I was carrying from that, and the regret, and how free I was going to be afterwards. And so I'd like to share with you how I did it. There was a book that they had me read. It's called Tilly. And if you just Google Tilly abortion story, you'll be able to find that book. Here's a disclaimer I want to say right away. If you are thinking about dealing with this is something you need to have someone to call, a shoulder to cry on, a support around you, which is one of the reasons why I created our Facebook group. And I'd like to be able to do Zooms and also be there for people. Anyway, we are going to have a private Facebook group. And I would not, actually, I was going to say I would not be against walking someone through this. Even though I'm not a therapist, we can spend a lot of money going to therapists, and they can have a cognitive idea of what we're going through and read it in books, but they haven't experienced it. And the absolute best healing that you can get is from someone that has been there. So anyway, I would say if you're going to try this, to have it at least a weekend, you know, even if it was like a Friday to a Sunday morning, Friday night to Sunday morning, or all day Saturday and half a day Sunday, where you could give yourself to this, because you're going to have to feel it. And it's okay. You'll be okay. You're going to have to feel it, cry about it. It took for me, I named my baby and had a memorial for my baby. Just me, actually me and Jesus. We did that together. And I kept the rocks from both of the abortions for 15 years. I actually took them back to that river 2 years ago. It was time. But the freedom that I received from this is instrumental. And to have someone to share it with, besides Jesus, you really should have at least one other person that you can tell. They might not need to be right there with you, but that you could call and that you could share all this with. And someone that really, really cares about you. And I know I haven't met you, but I do. I can tell you that right now. I really do believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And the more that I realize that, the more love I have in my heart for other spirits. And I don't care how far along you were when it happened. I don't care how many you've had. I promise, sweetie, you can be forgiven. And the biggest thing is you can forgive yourself. I can help you through that. Please, I know leaving a comment here is risky or a like, but you can contact me through email. My email is in the description. If you'd like to talk to me more, we could set up a Zoom session. Right now, I'm not charging anything for any of this. I just want to create a community of us that have been through similar things, and the more people that heal, the more we can heal other people. So that's where I'm at, and thank you for hearing my story. And again, I hope you're going to be brave and take that step in the journey to heal. Thank you. And thank you for watching.